Welcome back to Vessel and Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Charlson. And in this episode, Monty is going to be sharing some information on how we can surrender more to the universe, what that entails, and how we can begin to release more control in our lives. Let's get into it. One of the things that surprises me the most about recording these podcasts is that Monty and I sit down and we plan out what the content's going to be weeks, months in advance. This particular episode was planned about 2 months ago and was the last of a block that we had done planning for. So, all of the new episodes, I didn't know what was coming, but this was the one that I knew we were culminating in the series of podcasts that he had planned that we were getting through. And without fail, very often the episodes that he's planned coordinate very specifically with other things that are showing up in my life, that I am encountering different challenges. And I look to this week's podcast as I'm recording it and say, wow, okay, well, that's great because I need the answers because I'm going through this struggle right now for myself. And I'm really curious about what Monty has to say. And I know that that may be something that resonates for many of you because somehow Monty always seems to anticipate what we need before we even do. So understand a lot of this content is planned and shot well in advance, and then it seems to turn up at just the right time. And for me, this episode turned up at just the right time because I have really been struggling with the concept of control lately. And I'm sure this is a concept that may be showing up for you with the way things are in the world of we just don't feel like we have a lot of control over our lives right now. And there's all sorts of different scenarios and energies that are coming in that we don't know what to do with. We may feel a lot of sadness and grief and difficult emotions we're struggling to process through, and we don't know what to do other than maybe avoid the things in the news that we don't want to see. And for me, what I recently found out is that I'm a high functioning codependent. And what that means is I've been trying to manage everything of anticipating other people's emotions and managing them and doing things to prevent emotional outbursts from others before they happened. And that's been my pattern of behavior since I was a very young child. It was all based on wanting to feel safe. And I've come to understand that control does not guarantee safety by any means and often gives the illusion of safety. That is something that we also have learned as a society over the last 5 years. And maybe you can relate to that a little bit. But this channeled message from Monty hit me at just the right time because I've been saying, okay, relationships with people in my life, I have to learn how to trust them more, that I'm going to be safe even though I'm not controlling everything that's happening. And what does that look like? Well, trust is something that you earn in a relationship. And if they repeatedly violate that trust, then you're not in a relationship with them anymore. And that's what that looks like. But when I started to reflect on what that means for the universe, you can't really take that same approach. And I've been curious about what Monty had to say about that because we can't exactly just leave the universe. We're always in it, no matter what. We can't just say, well, I don't trust you, universe, so I'm not going to deal with you anymore. That's not an option. So Monty's message today really resonates with me and is something that I'm going to take a lot more time to process and understand because I'm still not quite 100% clear on how the universe works through us, especially because Monty talks about how the universe is neutral all the time. But he squares some of those things and clears up some of that confusion in today's channeled message. As you listen, I'd invite you to think about where you're trying to direct a specific outcome in your life. And it may be, in your case, to also create safety, or it may be to create certain outcomes. And if this episode resonates with you deeply, we would love if you would leave us a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on, as it helps us reach more people with these channeled messages. So let's get into it with Monty. We're delighted for this opportunity to explain more about how the universe works through you and with you, as there is always a lot of confusion about how that works, especially when we have said things such as the universe is neutral, the universe does not have desires. So how would it be that the universe could work through you when it has no particular end goal, no particular intention in mind? And what it truly is that you, in your manifestation, whether you are physical or non-physical, is the universe experiencing itself. And so in you, in your life, in your incarnation, what it is trying to do, of that you have set that intention, is to experience your energy collaborating with other energies, be it physical or non-physical. So the goal rather is that the universe comes through you to allow to become physical as you are incarnate in this life, or to be interacted with at the spirit level, at the energetic level. Because this is truly what it means for the universe to work through you, is that you are taking very passively or very actively the energy that is in its pure essence and bringing it in through your energetic centers and allowing it to be radiated out into the world in specific formats as you bring them into reality. Now, this can be in your physical creations, in your thought logical creations, in your conversations, in your interactions, every single thing that you do, every single thing that you act, every single thing that you think is in manifestation of energy from the all that is formless into form. And when we say form, it is not merely just physical. It is everything that exists that is tangible and intangible, separate from the all that is. And that is the key that you need to understand, is that is how the universe works through you, is that you are bringing through energies and making them become more than the everything that they are. You are giving them a format. And as well, you are giving them a purpose. Even if you are a passive recipient of those energies, your energy in its pure essence has a purpose. And so that purpose is imprinted upon that energy when it comes through you. And that is the universe working through you. Now, when it comes to allowing the universe to work through you, you may decide that you have specific goals that you have in mind of what you would like to do in your life. And so you are taking an active role in how the universe works through you. It is still, in very many ways, the universe working through you, that you are actively taking in energy with intention and then intentionally, purposefully acting and behaving or creating in certain ways to achieve specific goals that you have for yourself, for the world that you are creating, for your perspective on life. But this is a very limited perspective, because what that requires is that you are actively taking in energy and then actively transmuting it and transmitting it out into the world. In many ways, this can be very beneficial, that you can control the energy as it comes through. And it requires a certain amount of skill and talent that is innate within your soul, of that you have certain elements of energies that you collaborate better with to create, to produce. That is where talent truly comes from. Now, when it comes to manifesting specific things within your reality, you may say, I have these certain goals in mind for my life, and so I'm going to take these specific actions by taking in the energy of the world, the interactions that I require, and moving towards this particular goal. And that is very well intentioned, and we are not saying that it is any lesser than, but in many ways, it is relying on your capabilities to control energy. And yes, part of your goal being here in physical manifestation is to become a master of energy, which indeed means a certain amount of control. But when you work with the energies of all that is in this way, you can only use the energies that you intend. It is a very limited perspective of saying, I need to control the energies to get a specific outcome. Now, when we speak of energies, you may be thinking, well, I sit in meditation and I think of certain manifestations that I want and I visualize them. This is not the only way to work intentionally with energy. It is also in your actions that you take day to day, the things that you do in your life that you believe will lead you towards certain outcomes. And there is a time and place for that. For example, if you wish to create a business or a healthy body, there are certain habits that you need to do on a consistent basis. But it is the energy that you are taking in and how you are working with it that can change, not merely the action that you are taking and the intention that you have, but rather opening up to significant more possibilities. And this is where it becomes a bit more passive of saying, I cannot control all of the different energies that I interact with all the time. There are only certain conditions, yes, but then there are other conditions that come into my life that are out of my control. And with that, those energies are out of my control. And I can do my best to try to externally control those different energies to allow myself to come into that sense of control. But as you are well aware, as the world has shown humans very recently, things happen that are very much out of your control that can take all of your plans, your best intentions, and just make them disappear as if overnight. Now, when it comes to instead having a much more passive role with the universe, what this would mean is that you are accepting every energy that comes to you, regardless of whether or not you find it desirable or undesirable, versus someone who is being in an active state only takes in desirable energies, tries to avoid undesirable energies, and says, no, those do not fit my plan. They are not energies I can control, and so I am leaving them behind and only focusing on these things. But in a passive way, you accept all of the different situations as they come, all of the different energies as they arrive to you, and you allow yourself to take in all of those and rather say to yourself, well, this isn't the way that I thought it would go. This isn't the thing that I had in mind, but I know that it is going to be okay, that it is going to work out one way or another. And also simultaneously letting go of the end result. So what that means, rather, is that you become more of a vessel for the energies that are coming through you, rather than a director of those energies. What we mean by this is that if you are in that active state, you are selecting different energies and saying, yes, you, no, not you. And you are telling those energies what to do. And you are not truly bringing those energies through your system quite as much. You do to a certain extent because that is how energy works. But you are not opening up your capacity to the fullness of those energies. And so that's why that is a very limited way of working. And we, again, are saying not that it doesn't work, but that there is an alternative. So in this alternative, instead of saying, yes, you, no, not you, yes, you say all energies are welcome here. I see a purpose in every single one of you. I see the beauty of an expression in every single one of you. And instead of saying, that is an undesirable energy I do not wish to bring into my environment, you rather say, this is something I cannot avoid. This is an undesirable energy that I see as something bad, but it is a situation that is. There is no other way around it. So instead, I am going to take that and learn from that energy of how I can better work with it, of surrendering to that energy and saying, what is it that you need from me to be able to bring you through my system to then use that energy in my life in a way that is productive, that creates, that allows your energy, speaking to the energy now, to come into creation in a new way, in a different format. Because this is the key. Most humans focus on the format, the end result, the manifestation of an energy. But formats can be changed. So if you look upon something and say, well, it has this format that I find undesirable, but then you look at the energy behind that format and say, I understand truly what this really is now. I can work with this energy in a different way and mutate its energies, transmute them in such a way that here is a new format I find more desirable. And that is in the essence of what it means for you to be a passive vessel, as rather saying, I will take in all the energies as they come, regardless of what they are, and I will find what is inside of each individual energy, each individual manifestation, each different form, and find the truth in it. And inside of that truth is the answer of how I can use it, how I can take action with it to create. Now, there is also a certain sense of letting go of control here on the outcome. So from the active perspective, the outcome is the end goal. It is the specific format that matters. But it is a limited perspective of saying, this is in this format, I can take this energy and produce this format. It is only allowing like-to-like formats to be useful to you. And you can see this demonstrated in your life in very many different ways if you begin to pay attention to formats in this way. But if you begin to pay attention to energies instead and understand, yes, this is a format I find undesirable of a manifestation of that energy, but I can take that in and allow my system to transmute it into something different, a different format. It is something I find more desirable. You become the vessel and transformation point for energies. That rather than electing and being the director, you allow yourself to be part of the process. That instead of trying to control, you are really allowing it to come into fruition in the way that is the most advantageous for you and for the world at large. Because there is a certain understanding that certain formats are less desirable than others. And so for you to transmute that format into something different creates a new perspective, creates a new experience, creates a new community around that energy, and produces truly the results that you are looking for. But how can you develop trust when the universe is not quite like someone that you can have a relationship with? You can have a relationship with someone else and say, thank you so much for being here. This is not the format I would like. I would like this other format. And to be that point of transformation from very many individuals. That is how many relationships operate. And that if you find that someone else finds a format desirable that you do not, and they do not wish to change that format, you can leave the situation. This is not so with the universe. In the same way of that, you typically cannot leave the situation that is causing you discomfort, because you will find that when you pick up and go somewhere else, the format may change, but the energy again is the same, and it is truly what you are troubled with. That is where you learn that rather than allowing the universe to say the formats matter, you recognize that the universe is neutral. It does not care what the format is. It only understands that it is coming into manifestation of that energy. It is experiencing that energy in different formats, just in the same way that you are the universe experiencing itself in a certain format. So, how do you develop trust with that? Well, it is an understanding that you need to focus on the energy first. And that when you first focus on the energy, you can see the opportunities rather than the limitations. That you allow yourself to look upon the energy of a certain format and allow yourself to dream up all of the possibilities, all of the different choices that could be made that would allow that energy to exist in a different format. That you become that transformation point. And by being that transformation point, you understand that rather than releasing control and that you're living in a state of surrender, because you are, but instead of viewing it at that perspective, you allow yourself to view it at the perspective of, I am such a powerful creator. I can take any of these different situations and these different energies and transform them into something that I desire. And that is when you truly understand how powerful you are. But what it comes down to is understanding that instead of exhibiting control to do that, it is that state of surrender of accepting what is to create what it is you want. Now, we understand this has been more of a theoretical concept, and putting it into practice is a bit more difficult. But what we would like you to do as you reflect on this is to think of a situation in your life that you find particularly irksome. Something in your life that has been difficult for you to overcome, that has been something you feel as though is a thorn in your side that is unavoidable, that you wish that the universe would just change. And instead of looking at that situation for what it is, for its form, begin to identify the energies that are behind it. Very often you will find that it is more than one energy, but you will understand what it is that you are truly working with. And then reflect on yourself of what it would take for you to be able to work with that energy without regard to the format that you could create at the end, without regard to the outcome, but rather allowing yourself to dream up all of the different ways you could work with that energy and what would be required for your state of being to be able to do that. We send you great love and great appreciation as you work through this message, and we welcome any questions you may have on how you can begin to apply this in your life. This message has hit really close to home with me, and you'd think it wouldn't be that surprising because I am a vessel, I work with Monty, I surrender to his energy, but there's a certain amount of control in channeling. I only let in certain energies. I do a lot to prepare my vessel beforehand. I clear all the energies and other beings away. I focus just on him to let him in. It's a very controlled process. And what Monty is proposing is something that has that sort of control of preparing your vessel, but allowing many more energies through than what you may find that you're willing to do right now. And it brings up a lot of questions for me that I don't know the answers to. And I'm sure that this episode has done the same for you too. But the one thing that I will take away is that surrender and letting go of control is the opposite of weakness. It actually takes a very, very strong master of energy, to use Monty's vocabulary. It takes a very strong person to be able to open up their vessel to anything and everything and still be able to work with those energies and to transmute them into different forms that they find more desirable without regard to the outcome. That takes someone who is very much in their power, very much in their energy, and knows how to work with energies. And the one thing I would say is I know I'm probably not going to get there in this lifetime, and that's okay. It's a process of evolving lifetime by lifetime by lifetime, and we don't have to get it all done in one life. But one thing I would say is that what I've learned in being a vessel, while it's passive in many ways, of that I sit back and I let Monty do his thing, it's that I am divinely available for that energy. I am open to that experience. And what that requires is a certain amount of bravery, which we'll be talking about in the next episode. If this episode spoke to you and shared some insights that you haven't come across before, we would love if you would leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform, because it helps us get our message out to more people and to build our audience. And if you're craving a little bit more personal clarity right now, you can join Monty and me for a one-to-one session where we can dive in deep on any questions that you have. In a 90-minute session, you can usually ask 8 to 10 questions, and think of it just like sitting down for coffee with a close friend. Monty knows pretty much exactly what you need to hear in the moment, and it's an amazing experience. I hope you decide to join us for one. You can find out more details in the link at the show notes. Until next time, may you stay open to the guidance as it arrives to you, as it very often does for me. We'll see you in the next one.